Welcome to a new episode of Cash versus S&P 500 versus Bitcoin. We've had a pretty bad week in the markets, but honestly, that's perfect for what we're doing on this channel, because we're at the very beginning of our DCA journey. The lower the prices, the better it is to keep stacking. So today, we'll think about the reasons behind this drop, if there even are any, since sometimes markets just need to breathe. And we'll also look at what could drive big moves today. Jerome Powell's statements on whether rates will stay high or finally get cut. And here's a twist. Maybe Powell isn't the bad guy here. Maybe the real bad guy for the economy and for Americans' savings is Donald Trump. Let's start with performance. The S&P 500 has been dropping for several sessions. One possible reason, Walmart's bad earnings. Walmart is the barometer of U.S. consumption, and its CEO admitted they're struggling to absorb Trump's tariffs. Now let's remember Trump's strategy: impose tariffs at the border to boost the U.S. economy. But what he refuses to acknowledge is that tariffs raise inflation. And here's the second problem. Trump has been constantly pressuring Powell to cut rates. When will you cut rates? When will you cut rates? Why does he need this so badly? Because rate cuts usually pump the markets. Here's how it works. When bond yields go down with rate cuts, money flows into riskier assets like stocks. And with midterm elections coming, Trump wants to show, look, under my presidency, the market is booming. But here's why this is dumb. Tariffs create inflation, while high rates are supposed to fight inflation. You can't have both. High rates slow inflation because borrowing gets more expensive, money printing slows down, and people are less able to keep pushing prices up with credit. So if you cut rates while tariffs are already fueling inflation, sure, you get a market pump short term, but structurally you make the problem worse. More debt, more printing, more inflation. And money printing is the root of all evil in our modern economies. So, is it really worth trashing the economy just so Trump looks good before the elections? With that said, let's do our DCA. I decided to speed up the pace. So this time, I'm not going to put $20 into the different assets. I'm going to put $40 into the different assets. So let's start by buying a bit of Bitcoin. And about Bitcoin, I wanted to show you this document, which is quite interesting. Here, you have the average performances of Bitcoin over the different months of the year since its creation. And what's funny is that you see that August and September are historically bad months for Bitcoin. So maybe it's actually a good month to start and accelerate a DCA. And it reinforces my idea that this is not a bad moment to buy, and that's what we're going to do now. First, let's look at the state of the portfolio. Well, the state of the portfolio is that Bitcoin really dropped, the S&P 500 is also plunging, and for the moment, cash is king. You see the interest of having cash in the portfolio. Cash just keeps quietly following its little upward curve. So we start by putting $40 into Bitcoin. Then we put $40 into the S&P 500. There, that's done. And finally, we're going to put $40 to work in cash. So here we are on this platform where we're going to add $40 that will work at 7.23%. It's a variable rate. It's a variable rate, so it can move between 6 and 12%. But over the year, it's still something interesting. And in any case, it beats inflation. And that's the best thing you can do with cash. And I already explained to you my objective with the cash part of this portfolio. Once a year, I'll pay myself a dividend. Because while Bitcoin, I think it's very important to hold it long term to get the best performance. And the S&P 500, it's the same. It's in the long term that you'll get the best performance. The big interest of having a part working with a good yield is that you can increase your standard of living by consuming the interest. And that's it, my friends, for this episode. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed the video. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask them in the comments. And I'll see you on Monday to follow the rest of this adventure.